Hi everyone, and welcome back to the ALISA English podcast. I'm your host, Alex. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're studying English constantly, but somehow, you're not really improving? Maybe your vocabulary isn't growing as fast as you'd like, or your speaking still feels awkward, even though you've been learning for years. It can be frustrating, right? Well, today's episode is for you. We're going to talk about why you might not be improving in English, and more importantly, what you can do to fix it. No fluff, just honest, practical tips you can apply starting today. So, get comfortable, maybe grab a notebook, and let's dig in. Problem number 1. You're learning passively. Let's start with one of the biggest traps English learners fall into. And it's more common than you might think. It's called passive learning. What is that exactly? Well, it's when you spend your time watching English shows, listening to podcasts, scrolling subtitles on YouTube, or reading English articles, but you're not actually doing anything with the language. You're just letting the information wash over you without really interacting with it. And look, don't get me wrong. This kind of input is important. It helps you absorb rhythm, pronunciation, and vocabulary. So yes, passive input is great. But it's not enough on its own. Here's the problem. When you only consume English passively, your brain doesn't build the strong connections it needs to actually use the language. It's like watching hours of cooking shows and expecting to become a great chef, without ever stepping into the kitchen. You might understand more, sure, but when it comes time to speak or write, especially under pressure, you'll feel stuck, because you never practiced output. So what's the fix? The answer is active learning. That means getting your brain to engage with the language, not just observe it. Here are a few ways to start right now. Repeat out loud what you hear. This improves pronunciation and builds muscle memory. Write summaries of what you've read or heard, even just 2 sentences in your own words. Pause a video and try to explain what was just said, as if you're teaching it to a friend. These techniques activate different parts of your brain. They boost retention, build speaking confidence, and help turn passive knowledge into active skills. The more you use English, the more it becomes a part of you. Okay, so being more active is key. But what about consistency? How do you keep going when life gets busy? Let's talk about that next. Problem number 2. You're not consistent. Here's a tough truth, and it's one that many learners don't want to hear at first. If you only study English once or twice a week, your progress will be painfully slow, or, in some cases, non-existent. You might feel like you're doing something, but in reality, it's not enough to move the needle. Think of learning a language like going to the gym. Imagine trying to get fit by working out only on Sundays. It might feel good in the moment, but let's be honest, you're not going to build strength or endurance that way. Your body needs consistent training. And your brain? Same deal. The brain thrives on repetition and small, regular doses of effort. If you practice a little bit every single day, you build neural connections. You reinforce what you learn. You stay in touch with the rhythm and structure of the language. And over time, those short sessions add up to big results. That's the power of compounding. So what's the fix? The answer is simple. Create a simple, daily routine. And no, it doesn't have to be long or complicated. Even a routine like this can work wonders. 5 minutes of shadowing. Repeat native speech out loud to improve fluency and pronunciation. 10 minutes of reading. Pick something enjoyable like a short article or graded reader. 5 minutes of speaking out loud. Describe your day, talk to yourself, or record a voice memo. That's it. Just 20 minutes. The key is, it's not about intensity. It's about regularity. You're training your brain to show up every day. And once it becomes part of your lifestyle, it doesn't feel like a chore. It just feels normal. Consistency is the engine. But what happens if you're being consistent with the wrong strategy? You might be working hard, but heading in the wrong direction. Let's take a look at mistake number 3 next. Problem number 3. You're not practicing what you actually need. Let me ask you something. Are you spending hours learning rare vocabulary, but struggling to order food at a restaurant? If so, you're not alone. This is a super common problem among English learners, and it usually comes down to one thing. You're not practicing what's relevant to you. Here's the deal. Learning English just for the sake of it isn't enough. If the words you study don't match your real-life needs, they won't stick. And even worse, they won't help when you need them most. You might know how to say metamorphosis or philosophical, but go blank when the waiter asks if you want sparkling or still water. That's why language learning should be personal. Think about it like this. If your goal is to travel, then study airport signs, customs questions, and phrases for asking directions. If you need English for work, focus on business vocabulary, emails, meetings, presentations, phone calls. The key is to match what you're learning with what you actually need to use. So how do you fix it? Start by asking yourself 2 very simple, very powerful questions. What English situations do I face most often? What do I want to be able to do? Once you have those answers, build your learning plan around them. This is how you make progress that's not only faster, but also far more useful in the real world. Because when English feels relevant, it also feels rewarding. And that's the kind of motivation that lasts. That brings us to the next challenge, one that every learner faces at some point. The fear of making mistakes. Why does it hold us back so much? And how can we move past it? Let's unpack that. Problem number 4. You're afraid to make mistakes. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. And it could change the way you think about learning forever. Making mistakes is not just okay. It's necessary. In fact, it's one of the most powerful ways to grow. Think about it. If you're always afraid to speak because you don't want to make a mistake, what happens? You stay silent. You overthink. You wait until your sentence is perfect. And by that time, the moment has passed. But here's the truth. If you're afraid to speak until you're perfect, you'll never speak. And the longer you stay quiet, the harder it becomes. The less you speak, the slower you improve. We have to stop seeing mistakes as failures. Instead, let's call them what they really are. Stepping stones. Every error shows you where to improve. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you're pushing your limits. So what's the fix? Reframe mistakes as learning moments. Here's a simple but powerful mindset shift. Instead of thinking, I failed, try saying, great. Now I know what to work on. Let's be honest. You'll improve so much faster by making 100 small mistakes and learning from them than by spending all your time waiting for the perfect sentence. In fact, perfection is the enemy of progress. Real learners get messy, try anyway, and adjust along the way. And when you stop fearing mistakes, something amazing happens. You speak more, try more, and gain real confidence. All right, we're letting go of perfection, and that's a huge step. But now, let's look at another hidden blocker, something that stops progress for many learners even if they practice daily. Lack of feedback. Let's break it down. Problem number 5. You're not getting feedback. David, let's be real. Many learners practice on their own, and honestly, that's already a big win. It shows discipline, motivation, and self-direction. But there's one major issue. They don't get feedback. And that means they could be making the same pronunciation, grammar, or sentence structure mistakes over and over again, without even realizing it. It's like trying to learn how to play the piano by yourself, without anyone watching your technique. Sure, you might be able to play a song eventually, but if your hand position is wrong or your rhythm is off, you'll build bad habits that are hard to unlearn. That's why we use teachers and coaches, not just for information, but for correction and guidance. Language is the same. You need an outside perspective, someone or something that can gently point out, That sentence sounds a bit off. Or, hey, here's a more natural way to say that. Without that input, it's easy to plateau. So what's the fix? Find feedback sources. Luckily, there are more options than ever today. Work with a tutor who understands your level and goals. Chat regularly with a conversation partner who can help you hear and notice your mistakes. Use AI tools that correct grammar and provide instant suggestions. They're getting smarter every day. The key is not just to practice, it's to practice with awareness. Feedback helps you grow faster and smarter. It helps you stop guessing and start improving with purpose. All right, now that we've talked about the problems and the ways to fix them, let's end on a high note. Let's wrap up with a few positive habits that can really push your English forward and help you feel more confident every single day. Final tips to boost your English progress. Let's finish strong with 3 final habits that can change the game. Small actions with big results. These are the things that turn learning English from a task into a lifestyle. Let's break them down. First, track your progress. Don't underestimate this one. Keeping a simple journal, even just a few lines a day, is one of the best ways to stay motivated and see how far you've come. You might write, learned 5 new words today. Awkward, polite, reliable. Watched a short video and repeated 3 sentences out loud. Had a 10-minute chat with a language partner. Looking back after a few weeks, you'll feel proud, and that keeps you going. Progress isn't always visible day to day, but when you track it, it becomes real. 2. Speak every day, even if it's just to yourself. This one's powerful. You don't need a partner to start speaking. You can talk to yourself in the mirror, describe what you're doing, or think out loud in English. For example, now I'm cooking lunch. I'm chopping vegetables. The water is boiling. It sounds simple, but it trains your brain to think in English. And that's a major breakthrough. Speaking daily builds fluency bit by bit, like exercising a muscle. 3. Use it in real life. English isn't just something you memorize, it's something you live. Start interacting with the world in English. Leave comments on YouTube videos you enjoy. Write a short post or question on Reddit or Quora. Join an English forum or Discord server and participate. When you use the language in real contexts, it becomes more meaningful. And when it matters to you, your learning becomes more personal and fun. All right, you made it to the end. Let's quickly recap today's vocabulary and idioms so you can review and really lock them in. All right, let's quickly review before we finish. We talked about why you might not be improving, passive learning, inconsistency, irrelevant practice, fear of mistakes, lack of feedback. But more importantly, we talked about how to fix them. Now let's go over some useful vocabulary and idioms from today's episode. The first word is, consistent means doing something again and again, even when it's hard. You don't need to be perfect, just keep showing up. Improvement comes from being consistent, not perfect. The second word is, relevant means it matters to you. It's useful in your real life. So don't waste time on random words. Focus on what you actually need. Focus on learning vocabulary that's relevant to your life. The third word is, reframe is when you change how you see something. For example, instead of thinking, I made a mistake, you think, nice. That's how I learn. Reframe your mistakes as chances to grow. The fourth word is, compound is a fancy word that means small things add up. Just like saving a little money every day adds up, so does your English practice. Small actions compound to create big results. The final word is, feedback is when someone helps you see what's working and what's not. It's like having a coach who says, try this instead. It sounds more natural. Getting feedback helps you notice what you need to fix. We review some idioms. The first word is, fall into a trap means making a common mistake, something a lot of people do without realizing it. Many learners fall into the trap of only watching English shows without practicing. The second word is change the game means to do something that totally improves your results. It's that one action that makes everything better. Daily speaking practice can really change the game for your confidence. Thanks so much for tuning in to the ALISA English podcast. I'm Alex, and I hope today's episode gave you the insight and motivation to keep growing your English with clarity and confidence. Remember, the problem isn't you. It's the process. Change the process, and you'll change your progress. Catch you in the next episode. Until then, keep learning and keep speaking.